75 points. We usually win when we hold teams under 84, so really good night for us.
Breaking a record that had been sitting pretty for over 2 decades? That's downright legendary. In a game against the Seattle Storm, where it looked like Indiana might just fumble their way into another loss, Clark flipped the script entirely. Down in the first quarter with a pitiful 13 points seemed not a problem for her. She took control, and by the time the final buzzer sounded, the Fever had turned a potential disaster into a 92-75 beatdown. But you should not overlook this aspect that she didn't just lead her team to victory. She shattered the WNBA rookie assist record as well. That record had stood there belonging to Ticha Penicheiro, gathering dust for over 20 years until Clark decided it was time to make her mark. And look how Ticha appreciated her with full heart.
Hey Caitlin, Ticha here. Congratulations. A record that stood since 1998, and you come here and you break it. Super proud of you. I know the work that you put in.
And how did she break it? Oh, just with a casual 3/4 court pass that probably had the crowd at Gainbridge Fieldhouse losing their minds. Kelsey Mitchell barely had to move. Clark practically handed her the layup, and boom, the place erupted. It was the kind of play that makes you sit up and realize you're watching something special. And if you thought Clark was just about assists, think again. She was everywhere on that court, dropping 23 points, dishing out 9 assists, grabbing 5 rebounds. This was a masterclass in how to dominate. The Seattle Storm didn't know what hit them. They started strong, sure, but by the fourth quarter, they were outscored 33-17, looking more like a team that had lost its way than one with championship aspirations. Clark didn't just expose the Storm, she dismantled them, piece by piece. And let's not forget the bigger picture here. This win was more than just a stat-padding exercise. It kept the Fever's playoff dreams alive, a feat no one saw coming. A team that's been on the sidelines since 2016 suddenly has a pulse again, and Clark is the one pumping the blood. She's so quickly becoming the WNBA's new face, and everyone's taking notice. Who knew a team that barely scraped together 13 points in the first quarter could turn into an unstoppable force by the end? The Indiana Fever looked like they were sleepwalking through the first few minutes of the game against Seattle. But then, something clicked. Probably Caitlin Clark flipping the switch. Because by the fourth quarter, it was like watching a completely different team. Suddenly, they couldn't miss, dropping 33 points and hitting 8 out of 9 from downtown. Lexie Hull, who decided to have the game of her life, drained 6 triples like she was just shooting around in the backyard, piece by piece. But let's not kid ourselves. This wasn't just about hitting shots. This was Caitlin Clark pulling the strings like some basketball puppet master. She was running the show, making sure Seattle didn't know what hit them. The Fever absolutely embarrassed the Storm, handing them a 17-point beatdown that left everyone wondering what just happened. It was the first time Indiana took down Seattle this season, and they did it with style. This win isn't just a nice little addition to the record books either. It's a big deal because it puts Indiana one step closer to something they haven't seen in years, a playoff spot. They're now sitting at 12, 15, and with Clark leading the charge, this team suddenly looks like it has some serious momentum. The Seattle Storm just got a brutal reality check, and let's be honest, it wasn't pretty. Once upon a time, they were the team everyone feared. The ones you circled on the calendar as do not mess with. But in their recent game against the Indiana Fever, they looked more like a shadow of their former selves. A 17-point loss? That's a full-on exposure of all the cracks in their armor. And who was holding the magnifying glass? None other than Caitlin Clark, who pretty much treated Seattle's defense like a practice drill. Seattle had 0 answers for her, like none. She was slicing through their defense, creating opportunities out of thin air, and making the Storm's attempts at stopping her look downright embarrassing. By the second half, it was clear that Seattle wasn't just losing the game, they were losing their grip on being considered a top team. The Fever were sinking baskets like it was target practice, and the Storm's defense, it might as well have been a revolving door. But let's be real, Clark's influence is way bigger than just what shows up on the stat sheet. She's the reason the Indiana Fever went from being a team nobody cared about to one that's suddenly on everyone's radar. And get this, she's a rookie, yet she's out here leading the team like she's been doing it for years. When the Fever finally beat the Seattle Storm after 3 failed attempts, it was Clark saying, "This is my team, and we're not messing around anymore." She's the glue holding it all together, the spark that's lighting the way back to the playoffs for a team that's been wandering in the dark for years. Think about where the Fever were before she showed up. Lost, struggling, just trying to keep their heads above water. Then Clark comes along, and suddenly they've got more wins in her first season than they managed all last year. It's a full-blown revival, and Clark's the one pulling the strings. She's shifted the narrative from, "Oh, they're rebuilding," to, "Watch out, this team's coming for the playoffs." Defense? It might as well have been a revolving door. And then there's her clutch factor. When the game's on the line, you just know she's going to deliver. Whether it's a last-second assist or a game-changing three-pointer, Clark owns the game. That's something you can't teach, and it's why people are already comparing her to the legends of the game. With 12 games left in the regular season, there's no telling what else Clark is going to accomplish. More records? Definitely. A deep playoff run? Wouldn't be surprised. One thing's for sure, Caitlin Clark's a supernova, and the entire league better brace itself because this is just the beginning. But here's the thing. Seattle's struggle to adapt to Clark's dominance raises some serious red flags. With their key players getting older and the league evolving faster than they seem to be able to keep up, the Storm might be staring down the barrel of a rebuild. The game against the Fever was like a loud, unavoidable wake-up call that the days of coasting on past glory are long gone. If they want to get back to the top, they're going to need to rethink everything, from their strategies to the roster itself. Caitlin Clark exposed every single flaw in the Storm's game plan. Now the question is, can Seattle patch up those holes before it's too late? Or are they headed for a full-blown overhaul? This season is turning out to be a serious gut check for the Storm, and their loss to the Fever might just be the tipping point that forces some tough decisions. No doubt Clark's taken this team from the sidelines and shoved them back into the playoff conversation for the first time since 2016. And now, as the Fever head into these final games, all eyes are on her. Every assist, every shot, every single play is about to get magnified. We're talking about the beginning of a legacy that could redefine what it means to be great in the WNBA. And that's what makes her so special. She's not just performing, she's leading, she's inspiring, and she's doing it all with this ridiculous ease that makes you wonder if there's anything she can't do. So, where does this all go from here? How much higher can she climb? The answer seems to be as high as she wants. The Fever's playoff hopes are riding on her shoulders. And if her current form is anything to go by, they're in very good hands. This season might just be the opening act of a career that's going to leave the WNBA in awe for years to come. Her teammates and coaches, they can't stop singing her praises. They're talking about her like she's some kind of basketball messiah, highlighting her insane work ethic, her natural leadership, and how she's somehow managed to meet every challenge thrown her way with a casual shrug. It's like she's come in and completely transformed the Fever, not just by being a star player, but by lifting the whole team to new heights. They're not just better because she's good, they're better because she makes them believe they can be. And the fans? They're all in. Fever supporters are flooding social media with clips of Clark's jaw-dropping plays and tributes that make it clear she's already got a fan base that's as passionate as they come. She's a phenomenon, shifting the dynamics of the entire league. So, in a game that could have been just another forgettable match in a long season, Caitlin Clark turned it into a moment that people will talk about for years. Seattle Storm, you just got exposed, and the world watched it happen. Now, with the regular season winding down, everyone's watching to see what Clark does next. Can she keep this momentum going and drag the Fever into the playoffs? The pressure's on, and the basketball world is glued to every move she makes. Every game from here on out is another chance for Clark to add to her growing legend. She's a rookie rewriting the rules, and it's only getting more exciting from here. Leave your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe for more WNBA content.